What happens when two of the most plugged in people in digital care team up to help you make sense of the chaos? Welcome to Control Plus Care. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Katie.
This is your weekly briefing in under half an hour of the most important digital care updates. We're helping you unpack what you need to know this week. But first, Katie, how are you?
I'm really good. I've had such a nice day. I've actually been very honoured to get to go to the House of Lords today because the Outstanding Society had a parliamentary reception to celebrate social care nurses, and it was
Oh,
so lovely and so nice to be invited. So it's been really good. And London, when it's crisp and clear and cold like this, is really beautiful.
yeah, and all the lights are
Yeah,
starting to turn up.
exactly. How are
Yeah.
you?
I'm good. Oh, I've also had a really lovely week this week. So I've been off helping an organisation that I'm a trustee for,
Mhm.
Camp Hill Village Trust, and I went to visit one of their communities this week, and I got to feed baby cows and met a lot of animals and a lot of wonderful people. And you kind of come away and you go, this is why I love social care. Like, we
Yeah.
just do such phenomenal things. I met a guy who
Mhm.
has lived there for 41 years
Oh,
and was telling
wow.
me he's lived there 41 years. He was out, he was giving us the history of the place. That wasn't his job. He just turned up while we were there and was like, let me tell you about this house. And I was just so awed by like the service and the
Mm.
model and came away being like, yep, this is why
Oh.
we do it.
It's so nice to have those reminders, isn't it? Of sort of because you and I don't get to see sort of front lines very much. And so when you actually do meet people and go see sort of the difference it's making in people's lives, it's so, so lovely.
I know, because you and I used to be in Frontline, and
Yeah.
we've come a long way away, and we still are so passionate about it. But it is really easy to lose sight of actually the people that this whole industry is about. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was wonderful.
Oh, good. Well, let's have more positive news stories. Maybe you and I need to go and do more frontline visits.
I'd say we'd have to get out more, but I think you and I are out plenty.
That's true. For audio only listeners, I'm currently in a Premier Inn. So coming from all of the exciting places across the country.
We can rank every Premier Inn in London from top
This
to
one,
bottom.
great location,
Mm-hmm.
not the nicest one I've been to.
See,
Hmm. We'll find out if I can get an iron later.
let's get to the news because there
Yeah,
is a lot, and
so
this week is
much.
very cyber heavy.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, let's start with a big announcement
Hmm.
around new legislation.
Okay.
So the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill has been passed. Um, now, essentially, this bill updates what's called the Network and Information Systems Regulations. You'll hear them referred to as the NIS regulations. The NIS regulations essentially apply to public services that people rely on. So it's always been water, energy, healthcare, anyone that has networked systems. And then this bill is expanding that out to more people. Okay.
Hmm.
So for marginalized people, people with disabilities, these systems we know are absolutely critical. A cyber incident would disrupt these. The impact for them particularly is magnified. So this is something we are really interested in
Yeah.
because we know how vulnerable social care could be, but also how vulnerable people in general are who are living with these conditions. So essentially, it expands the scope and the powers. It basically says, things like data centers, which when the first bill came out were not a huge issue. They are now.
Hmm.
Managed service providers. Now, a managed service provider is your IT company. In social care, a lot of our organizations are very small, so they will be using managed service providers. And I think what's really good about this is it does give increased enforcement powers. So NIS regulations have been around for a long time, but when people aren't complying with them, it's been a little bit toothless.
Yeah.
This will enhance that. So for health and social care, this means that, if you're an organization who either uses these things or, is of a significant size, you're going to be needing to step up your resilience. Um, for us, we talk about very much the supply chain and understanding what's going on in your sector.
Hmm.
In terms of what you and I are both interested in, so digital transformation,
Yeah.
digital inclusion, the stronger cybersecurity regulation helps that So while sometimes regulations like these can feel really punitive, it's like it's too much, it's too big. I am all in favor of asking more of our digital
Mm,
partners, asking more of organizations. Um, there are some debates around, smaller organizations are going to have a bigger burden with this, but that is often the case with increased regulation.
mhm.
Um, but for me, I really think that this signals what we've been talking about for a long time, that it's not just an IT issue. Cyber does not live with IT. It is a board level issue. It is
Yeah.
an existential threat. It is something that any leader of any organization really needs to get a grip of and have a good idea of what they should be doing, what they can be doing, and what's missing.
Mhm.
That risk picture has to have cyber in it, and you have to have really kind of a good understanding of what the implications are for your organization. And this is likely to impact organizations. Um, but again, it's not just about compliance. This gives an opportunity for us to, one of the things in the bill is that it's about like innovating responsibility, looking at predictive analytics, assisted tech, remote services, all of these things that we are really interested in, built on a really secure foundation, feels very comforting.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely agree. Yeah, I think it sounds really, really interesting. Obviously, it's still a bill. It's got multiple readings to go through. It's got to go through the Lord, so might change. I think next year is probably when we'll get royal assent on
yeah.
it. So we'll obviously be keeping an eye on this. But I do think this is a really good opportunity for the sector to sort of feel more comfortable and confident around sort of the technology that we're using. Obviously, as you mentioned, risks about sort of what compliance burdens that might be, but it's a bit early doors for us to say. Um, but in general, putting some of that responsibility onto like the major IT suppliers, onto managed
Yeah.
service providers who provide like such important services into health and care across other sectors as well. Um, I think it makes sense for this legislation to come in because I mean NIS was 2018, so it's not that old. But if we think about how fast the tech industry is
Hmm.
moving, 2018, ChatGPT hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
Things are changing all the time. So actually having some quite rapid updates on this, I think, is a logical step.
Yeah, I mean, and the data centers is the one for me because
Mm,
everything is built on that. And we saw what happened when AWS went down. You know, it
yeah.
doesn't take an awful lot to really destabilize things
Hmm.
for us. And it doesn't even have to happen on our doorstep.
Yeah,
This is a
definitely.
way of, really making sure that if we are using data and data centers, it's just that bit more secure because the onus is on them to do a better job. So I
Hmm.
think this is great news. And as you say, it's still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I'm sure compromises will be made along the way, but we will keep an eye on it and we will bring it back as it progresses.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I don't think you did it on purpose, but excellent segue into my next story by mentioning the AWS outage.
That
But
absolutely was on purpose.
obviously,
We
yeah,
are
this
professionals.
this is very well scripted. It's what we do. But yeah, so I just have two really quick sort of also cyber stories that I wanted to touch on. So one of them is following on from the AWS outage in October. Some of you may have noticed this week that a lot of websites suddenly stopped working, and that's because Cloudflare also went down for several hours of this week. We were hit by this. I mean, it was quite temporary. Our website wasn't available for about 10 minutes or so. Apologies if you were trying desperately to reach us in those 10 minutes, but it was literally nothing that we could do. Um, I think we'll put a link in the show notes to the article from the Register. There's lots of articles about this and sort of follow ups. I just thought that the title of this one was quite good. So fair play to the headline writer, which is Cloudflare coughs, half the internet catches a cold, which I just think is quite good. And also sort of evocative about sort of the reliance on like these big sort of servers, Cloudflare, AWS, and how that's something that we can't do anything about. I think probably a good reminder for everybody about the importance of having business continuity plans when, we get system outages, which is nobody's fault. I mean, the Cloudflare one, for example, wasn't a cyber attack. Nothing like that happened. They were updating some database permissions. And that was what caused all of the issues. And while it's fixed now, they are seeing some difficulties around traffic being slower across the internet as a result of it. So please do your business continuity. And then the other quick cyber warning thing. So, this is an article from the Home Care Association based on some government advice because Winter fuel payments are now being made to pensioners, which is great news. People are receiving the money automatically. But obviously, because cyber criminals are like that, lots and lots of scams are also happening. So, a reminder, if you're supporting anybody who is expecting to receive winter fuel payment, or if you are yourself, the government will send you a text message with information. They're not going to ask you for money or to put any bank details, anything like that. Do not click on links from them. Most of this stuff is automated. Be very, very mindful of what you're doing at this time.
Yeah, I've had 2 of those text messages asking me to follow a link to claim my winter fuel payments, and I'm pretty sure I'm not eligible, so they're
No,
definitely doing the rounds.
yeah. So always this time of year, keep aware.
Well, I'm gonna move away from cyber
Hmm.
into tech-enabled care, which has one of the least helpful acronyms in tech, in that the acronym for tech-enabled care is TEC, tech. We're gonna try and skate around that. So this was an article in, which magazine was it? This magazine with double I.
Hmm.
Um, Essentially around Sheffield. So we've been doing some hyper-local stories, Katie. We've
We
had
have.
Bath, we've had Camden. This
Yeah.
is Sheffield. And they are really using the fact of the digital switchover. So that is the move from landline-based telephony
Yeah.
to digital lines, and how that's going to really impact particularly people using any sort of telecare.
Hmm.
So the story was done in partnership with the TSA,
Yeah.
who are a big leader in this area. And essentially, Sheffield took this opportunity to say, okay, we can actually rethink how tech enabled care can change the shape of care really fundamentally, rather than just like another supplier to upgrade our tech.
Mm.
Kind of the same things we've been doing, but a bit shinier and a bit newer. Considering kind of the regulations around it, the infrastructure changes, but also like we talk about all the time how digital can be the gateway to innovation.
Yeah.
That's really been the lens that Sheffield have taken on this, which has been really good. So they brought 3 providers together under a
Hmm.
single project that was very much around sharing data and integrating devices so that the end user themselves sees a real impact. Because again, very often when we malign commissioners, which we do, they're looking at their bottom line, they're looking at their
Mm.
budgets, which are incredibly pressured. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody is kidding themselves to say that they're sitting on piles of gold. In that, sometimes the end user gets lost.
Yeah. Definitely.
This very much felt like the end user was at the forefront and the other benefits came along because actually, when you commission in a really inclusive way, the benefits do turn up.
Yeah.
So, it was very much around things like sensors and apps and shared data. And in line with the big shift in the NHS, it was, it's not about being reactive, it's about being proactive in the support that we do. And again, the one that I like all the time is it frees up care workers to do the meaningful face to face work.
Yeah.
So, this was a great story. They picked up on how leadership and the values and the system design really matter.
Mm.
Digital care is not just something, it's not an IT project. You can't just take it off the shelf and be like, here's your tech. That's not how it works. It's, all of those things that we think about when we design services that are people led. So it's the place, the purpose, the fairness, the people involved. And the real call to action, I guess, was that local leaders should be auditing the systems that they've got, commissioning for outcomes, and investing in people alongside investing in the actual tech itself. So, a really great story of how it can be done.
Yeah. It sounds absolutely amazing. And if anyone from Sheffield is listening, I am in Sheffield next week. I would be happy to come and see what you're doing. That sounds incredible. But, I think what's great about this, and I think where we see sort of technology being commissioned really, really well, it is where it's done sort of in co-production collaboratively with carers, with end users, so that it's actually sort of meaningful for them. And something I worry about quite a lot was sort of when we just sort of put tech into people's homes without doing that sort of cultural change, that conversation piece to make sure people are happy, is then we actually miss quite a lot of the hidden work and the hidden burden, which goes on to like carers, onto family members, onto people themselves around this technology. Because it's like, okay, maybe we're reducing the actual direct sort of formal care worker visits, but is that now somebody's daughter or husband or, grandchild is suddenly being called 4 or 5 times a day to have to come over and to fix the technology to like
Yeah.
sort things out, is that actually adding additional burden there for somebody who previously was not in a caring role specifically, but suddenly was increasingly having to do so because we've reduced in-person care, but the sort of that gap is being picked up by a family member. And I do think some of these things we need to be quite cautious about. And obviously, this isn't what the Sheffield article is about, but when we actually have sort of really personalized assessments for technology, when we really think about things which are meaningful to the person, I think we're less likely to be sort of adding that additional burden onto people themselves. And if you think about the robotics talk we had last week, where we were talking about how people want robots to take care of them, they don't want to be taking care of robots.
Yeah.
I think even if we're not talking about, your like cyborg in your home, but even if that's just, a sensor which is meant to make you feel safe and supported and independent, if you're spending your whole time trying to troubleshoot it, that's not going to give you any confidence in the technology.
Anyone who's ever been called by a parent to fix a printer
Yeah.
can see the slippery slope to resetting whole telecare systems that you
Exactly.
are absolutely ill-equipped to set up. So I
The
think that's a
one.
really good point. And as you were speaking, it was the robots that came to mind because that's a
Mm,
really physical manifestation of it. But if
yeah.
I've got to go and, relog into the app because there's MFA and you can't remember your passwords and
Hmm.
all of these very important cyber hygiene features are a barrier to people
Yeah.
accessing tech.
I mean, the one
100%.
my grandmother used to love to do was go around and switch off every single plug socket at the end of the night before she went to bed, because obviously you don't want to waste electricity. I was like, no, no, it is quite important actually that this plug stays on. Please don't.
Put freezer stickers on just plugs all around the house.
Yeah,
Hoping for the best.
bless her. Yeah, like that woman never used a computer in her life. She had one lesson. She was meant to be there for an hour, lasted 5 minutes, decided it wasn't for her. So I don't know how it would have gone. An icon, really.
Love it.
Yeah.
All the time in the world for that.
So talking of good news stories and things which are exciting, which are happening in the sector. So there's been a new partnership which has been announced this week between the University of Liverpool and then Busan Techno Park, which is a South Korean public innovation foundation, really focusing on international collaboration around social care technologies. So many people might be aware University of Liverpool have got this adult social care test bed where they've been working with care providers across the Liverpool city region, testing and piloting new innovations, new technologies, really understanding what works. Our partners and friends at the National Care Forum have been very, very involved with this. And so we're really excited to see about this new partnership. And basically, what the plan is within this sort of memorandum of understanding, I can pronounce that, is that they're going to sort of develop sort of more assistive technology, look at innovation, think about AI and care coordination, remote monitoring, digital therapies. And they already have a really robust sort of test bed model, which they use in South Korea. So seeing if that can be replicated as well in Liverpool, because then we've got really, really good evidence that it's not just it works specifically within this one country, in this one cultural context, but also in a different country, in different cultural context. And so really exciting to see the collaboration, I think, between like these two universities, really specifically focused on that sort of technology space and care.
Fabulous. And it's so nice to see, isn't it, that we obviously we went hyper local, now we've gone global. But,
Hmm.
we know that the challenges for social care are in many ways universal.
Yeah.
So, the aging population, the reduction of a workforce, the cost of care, those things are the same. But as you say, the cultural context of how we deliver care is very different.
Hmm.
And technology is probably the most kind of portable thing we have. So, yeah, no, really great story. I love that.
Yeah, and it's obviously just starting out. I'm sure there's going to be lots of opportunities around it. So, yeah, definitely keep an eye on that one. I think it's going to be exciting.
Excellent. Well, staying global, I've got a
Hmm.
story from Cyprus.
Ooh.
So, the governments in Cyprus have launched a new digital platform so that all social care information
Hmm.
is in one place, which is very exciting. So
Yeah.
essentially, it lists all of their facilities. So if you are a social care provider who's like approved by whatever their regulation is, I guess the equivalent would probably be our CQC registered.
Hmm.
So it's this. facilities by district, popularity, population group, use type of program, contact details, like a really accessible way for people to find out where they can get care from. So, they've actually taken it all the way from services for the elderly, for disabled people, but also nurseries. So services for early years, supported housing, independent living, community-based caregiving, child protection services. It's really integrated. Even employment centres are on there.
Oh, wow.
So a proper one-stop shop where if you've got a social issue, you can go find a service in their kind of social welfare department that will help with that. So yeah, mapped it all to a single digital environment.
Hmm.
And they are hoping that it kind of bears real benefits for citizens who are trying to find that information. I will point out, we'll share the link. However, as of Friday evening, the website is only accessible in Greek.
Yes. So for our
So
large Greek audience, this one's for you.
hundreds of thousands of Greek people, obviously.
Exactly. But it is, I think it's a great development because obviously we talk a lot here about how people really struggle to navigate where they find care, where they go to. Obviously, a lot of local authorities will have information like this on the council websites, but people don't necessarily know that that's where to go. There's
Yeah.
been sort of rumblings from government in the past, and I'm sure it'll come back again about doing something very similar to this. And just in terms of our care system is so complex. People really struggle with it. As we both know, generally people interact with the care system for the first time at a point of crisis. So you're
Yeah.
already so stressed. So to actually just have sort of that digital front door nationally, which you can then search through, I think genuinely could make care more accessible to people. And a
Yeah.
lot of people as well who don't realize that they might be eligible for services might actually access services that they need because they didn't know that those existed. So,
And we've got a model. We've got the early help offer, which every local authority hosts. But
mhm,
again, it's by local authority, which isn't always the most useful for people because people move, people live on the borders.
yeah.
The local authority boundaries are artificial to people's lives.
Yeah.
I live in the Wirral, but psychologically I'm in Liverpool.
Yeah, and I live on the border between England and Wales. And if you go about 10 miles across the Welsh border into Powys, you've still got SY postcodes for Shropshire. So it's all a bit arbitrary anyway.
Exactly. So I really like this. And again, looking to our international partners to see what are they doing really well. And could we have something like that here?
Yeah. Thank you, Cyprus.
Thank you, Cyprus. Yeah. More than just a holiday destination.
Yeah.
Social care leader.
Amazing.
So that's all of our news stories this week, which felt big
It
and
did.
lots going on.
New legislation. Like, we don't get that every week.
We don't.
Thank goodness, honestly, there's so much to read through.
And no, unpicking it is a headache.
Yeah.
But we do get to move on now to Cyber Squirrels. So, for those of you that don't know, this is our little snippets at the end of every episode, a little feel-good story, something fun, something light. Because sometimes, not necessarily this week, the stories do get a bit heavy, and
Mhm.
sometimes Katie and I depress ourselves with how we feel about things. So, Katie, you've got one for us this week.
I do. And I needed to make up to you with apologies for last week, where I made you very, very upset talking about AI music being on the Billboard charts. So hopefully this one is a better story. I'm very excited about this. I spend all of my life on trains, but GWRs, a Great Western Rail, are piloting some technology which was originally designed for Formula One cars to improve the Wi-Fi on the trains. So this is using low Earth orbit satellites, which in Formula One, I presume, are keeping the drivers alive and moving. I know nothing about Formula One, but apparently
They
they
move
have
very fast.
very fast in lots of
Maybe even
circles,
as fast as a train.
possibly. And then obviously in a lot of circles, but they need really strong, high connective Wi-Fi in order to do that. And so this is what they're trialing out on GWR, which is not a rail network I actually get very often, but I am really excited that
No,
the trains...
we are firmly West Coasters.
We are. It's
We are.
Avanti and Transport for Wales for me all of the
Well,
time.
Do you know what? Once we've read this, we'll write a letter.
Yeah.
And our colleague Cyrus used to work on railway connectivity, so I think he'll be really interested in this.
He really will. So yeah, I think it's a fun story. It's personally meaningful to both of us and our
Yes.
train Wi-Fi woes. But also just like a great thing of like, oh, like a different sector is doing something really cool. Can we try that somewhere else? Like whoever was in trains who just was really obsessed with Formula One as well, Fair play to them.
We know that care workers out and about, connectivity is a huge issue for them.
Hmm.
So where the trains lead, maybe care workers will follow.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine if I could get even 3G across the entirety of my county? That would be amazing.
Now I can just picture a load of care workers moving as fast as a train. The
It,
local authority would be thrilled.
it could save some of the logistics issues.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Katie. Okay, so what happens when two plugged in people team up to diversify digital care? You get Control Plus Care.
Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts, and all of the links mentioned today will be in the show notes.
And tell a colleague, particularly if they're really excited by new legislation.